2024, and this is the Teaching and Learning Committee meeting of the School District of Waukesha Board of Education. We start with a verification that the meeting's been properly posted.
Yes.
Thank you, Stacy. We will start seeking approval of the teaching and learning minutes from the September 3rd, 2024 meeting.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Seconded by Mrs. Koenig. Any comments? All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes 5-0. We have an opportunity for public comment. Has anyone signed up?
Nope.
Okay, thank you. We don't have content areas tonight, but we do have a couple of topics in other business. So we're going to begin with our Infinite Campus update. I'll turn it over to Ms. Gennerman.
Awesome. Thank you for the introduction. I'm excited to bring an Infinite Campus update for all of you. Some of the topics we did discuss at Teaching and Learning or at Student Services last year, but what we're trying to do is just bring a whole well-rounded update to you tonight. So just give me 1 second. Okay, so for the last 10 years, maybe even more, we have used Infinite Campus. This has been our student information portal. It's used in many districts throughout the state and country. And so we are just one that use it. And so there's some things that they have type parameters and some things that are loose parameters where we have choice in. And over the years, we have used a variety of different systems for different purposes. So here on the left, it shows just some of the other systems that we have used throughout the last several years. Go Solutions had some different names. It was referred to as Oasis. That's what we use for the special education portal. We've used RevTrack for online payments. We've used Safe Arrival and also School Messenger. So whether you knew the names of these or not, they were the systems behind the scene supporting the work. And so tonight the update is really about sharing with you how we are building efficiencies by really consolidating the number of systems that we are using. So the first one I'll talk about is Go Solutions. Like I had shared, this is the one that was for our special education IEPs and 504 plans. So previously, we had used this software system that was outside of Infinite Campus. What it required special education teachers to do was to write an IEP at a glance that we would put in Infinite Campus. I'm looking at Betty like I remember talking about this with you. And so then people would have the IEP at a glance rather than the complete document. So over the last year, the special education team and the tech team have been working to really move away from a separate system for that and really use and enhance our use of Infinite Campus to house all of our IEPs and our 504s. What you see here on this screenshot is what a teacher would see when they log in to see their roster. So at the very top, that red circle, you'll see flags, health plan, IEP, RTI doc, or any other additional documents. And so now with the work that's been done, teachers will see everything on their teacher roster that they need to know about for the students in their classroom for that given class or hour. One of the pieces we've been able to do is now that the teachers will have access to IEPs, and again, access is only granted based on the teacher roster. So a teacher doesn't have access to all students. It's all through that teacher roster of what information they can see. When a student does have an IEP, now when they click on the IEP icon, they can see the most recent IEP and they see the full and complete document. And within this, once we've switched over to Infinite Campus, they now have a search feature that they can do. So if they wanted to see everything around literacy, they can search that and it will go to those parts of the IEP. So these are nice features that now we can use throughout our system. Another part of this is that while teachers have the rosters that they can see other documents on the screen. So here's just a screenshot where they can select the year and see other documents. Some students may have an accommodation plan or a behavior intervention plan. And again, this just gives teachers access at their fingertips to additional information for students. One of the things we've been able to do using Infinite Campus now is have enhanced reports around IEPs. Oftentimes, when part of an IEP is a specialized instruction, and so the minutes of service are written either per day or per week. And in the past, we had to manually track what services a student had. And so now we can pull reports and get a description of the services, and this is a sample of what it may look like. So we can pull that and look at that information for a class, for a grade, or for a school. And that's really helpful when it comes to scheduling and other things as far as seeing all the information rather than manually pulling that from the case managers. So those were some of the highlights of moving from Go Solutions to using the Infinite Campus module. One of the other areas that we're using now in Infinite Campus is School Store. So previously this was RevTrack, an online payment system. So now this is a screenshot of what families would see where there's the School Store on the left. And then some of you may have already purchased some of these things like homecoming tickets or play tickets or other items in the School Store, even spiritware. So this is one of the enhancements that rather than using RevTrack, it's done right within Infinite Campus now. I should have said at the beginning, with all things when we're transitioning with systems, it's a work in progress. So while the transition to the IEP work in Infinite Campus, that was pretty much done last year, where some of these other ones are happening right now. So this is one of the ones that is happening right now. We were using Safe Arrival, and now we are using the absence reporting within Infinite Campus. This is one that we're still working through some process enhancements and even some of the options that parents may see. So we're meeting with our staffs at the school. Steve Schloman is just supporting some of the changes and just as we get feedback. But this is one of the newer pieces that we're using this year, just really to condense the number of systems that we're using. With this, what we've been able to do is really look at our annual registration. So every family, when they enroll in the school district, they do the enrollment. And then it's required that every year there's an annual registration. That gives the families the opportunity to update any medication, address, any parent information. In the past, this was always a concern because we really did not have a high percentage of completion from our families. But we also didn't have a way to say, you need to do this by August 15th. And so what we've done this year with this absence reporting, we've been able to make that a more required step as far as the process. And so we've increased our annual registration 20% from last spring to this spring, or last fall to this fall. So now we had 86% of our families completing the annual registration in fall. That just really helps us to make sure that we have the most accurate information. We have phone numbers, email addresses, and just health information for students. So that's been a nice highlight of this reduction of systems. Another few pieces of Infinite Campus that we are using. So rather than School Messenger, we are using the parent portal. It has some improved text features. We are still working through some other features that they don't have, like sending, it's much more difficult to send PDFs for like student assessments, so we're still working through some of that. Another piece is we've connected our immunization loaded to the Wisconsin registry. So that's an automatic connect, so less manual entry on behalf of our student services teams, particularly the nurses. And then one other feature that we are using this year is the digital hall pass, which I got to experience the other day as I was subbing at Butler. And this has been a nice change. So instead of students getting a pass or paper or carrying something to the bathroom, a student, if they do want to use a pass, say at Butler, what happens is they have to show that their planner is up to date and that they're up to date, like right now in the class prior to going to the, using the restroom. And so then what they do is they go into Infinite Campus themselves and they're requesting a pass. And so even as a guest teacher or the regular teacher, we then put in a code to approve it. And then if anyone in the building is monitoring the hall passes, they get a visual like you see here of who's all in the hallway and has a pass. And so you'll see people walking around with iPads and they'll know if people have a pass or not. So this has been new this year. I think schools are in different places as far as trying and implementing it. But the schools that I've seen it, especially at the middle school level, they are seeing a reduction of kids in the hallway. But it's also very quick and easy to say, oh, do you have a pass or not? So that's been another piece of Infinite Campus that we've been using this year to go along with the enhancements. So in general, really, all of these systems, whether you knew what they were called beforehand or you just knew that they were done, we're trying to really consolidate the number of systems we're using, decrease the manual entry of any data or data pulls, and make it as easy as possible for all users, whether it be teachers or families. And like I said, there's still some hiccups in some of the things that are newer, but we are working through them and really are excited about our next steps as we continue to progress down this journey of technology enhancements. Mr. Schloman would have been here. There's a family birthday that was pressing. Otherwise, he would have been here to kind of share in the discussion, but we thought it was exciting things to share with the group.
Mrs. Kozlowski.
I love system consolidation. The one question I have goes back to the IEPs, the IEPs that they can now see, is that PDF, or are they also able to make the required updates and notes for reporting purposes, or where are they doing that?
It all is done in Infinite Campus. It's based on user rights. So if I was a special education teacher and I were to write a new IEP, I would write it in the system. Once that IEP is locked, then the team could see it. But if you were Betty and you were the regular ed teacher, she wouldn't have access to edit the IEP. She would just see the full document in more of a PDF version. So it's all based on rights and user permissions. So we are using it for both, but the teacher would see the full document, or the special education teacher has editing rights when it is that annual or review, revise IEP meeting.
Perfect. Yeah, no, I think this is great. Thank you.
Mrs. Koenig.
Well, I just have to second that. We've talked a lot about the whole consolidation efforts with this. Being someone that had to go years ago and have all these different access, points to go to. And even as a parent, I remember, in high school having to click different links for different, you're going here for this, going here for that. And it gets very confusing. I feel like this is wonderful. Has the feedback been good overall from the staff? I mean, are they feeling like this is a really great move? Are they feeling it?
Yes and no.
Okay.
I think with any
Challenges and
yeah, I think with any change, it's hard to adapt, but we've really built some strong systems to support people in the change. So I'll speak to some of the work last year with Go Solutions. We had Go Solutions the whole year as people had professional development to learn how to use Infinite Campus, because it's not the same. You're entering the same information, but it just looks different, and so it just feels different. So we provided professional development time to learn the tool, but also time to write their first IEP in the new system. The safe arrival and school messenger over summer and in fall, the tech team has had training sessions that secretaries or anyone else can go to really learn a little bit more of how to use that. And just last week, we had a principal meeting where really it was a question answer collaboration between Mr. Schloman and all the principals of they had a question about this or what's working well here. So with any of those changes, we've really tried to ensure that we're communicating it across the system, but also providing training and support for people. It's not perfect. We have some bumps, still, but I've heard from special education teachers now that we've made the switch, they're like, oh, piece of cake. And now we have other districts who have been using two systems who want to call us and say, how did you make that change? What does it look like now? So that's been a nice. So I think once you get over the initial hurdle, it's been exciting, but there's a learning curve with anything that's different.
Sounds like you did it the right way, though, supported
Well-
as going through it. So that makes a huge difference if the teachers feel supported and they receive that, PD and training.
We're working on it. We have a great team who put that in place, and we just continue to try and do those things for each of those components.
I'm going to just share a little bit from the parent perspective and some of the parents that I've been speaking to. And I think at a minimum, Ms. Kozlowski will appreciate this and maybe wish she could roll back the clock a couple years. But there were so many different systems. And so for me, I was able to purchase homecoming tickets, sign the permission slip. What was the other thing I wanted to mention? You can view test scores very easily. There's everything is kind of happening in one place. And I really liked the school messenger system that we were using from an attendance perspective. But I also appreciate the time and effort that you all have put in to make Infinite Campus work also from the attendance perspective. And again, it's going to take some getting used to, I think, for the staff as well. That might be the one thing that was maybe the hardest. But there are things like now that I know it's a one-stop shop, I know that I can go in and find all those things, and I'm going to Infinite Campus first, where it used to be like I would check my email and then I would, ask somebody and I would try to figure out what's the right system to go for that information. So I would anticipate, and my kids hate it because all those missing assignments just pop up. It's the first thing you see when you log into Infinite Campus. And because I liked School Messenger so much, I wasn't sure how that was going to work. I think especially in some of the emergency situations, that was a really good resource. I won't say that it was an emergency, but when the communication around junior conferences came out, it was like I got the text, the call, and the email like all at the same time. And I know a lot of that links back to how people register and all that. But I can just say from a user's perspective and from a lot of the parents that I've spoken to, this is the right way to do it. Again, I know there's still some work, and I know that there's some burden to staff that needs to be kind of ironed out, but I think you guys have made the right decision. Not only is it, one source of information, but it's more cost effective, it's more efficient for parents, so I think it's pretty great. Thank you. Ms. Kozlowski.
Well, now I feel the need to comment because, oh, the days of searching for the permission slip, the paper, and a checkbook. Me trying to find a checkbook is challenging, and to have all of that available, I think in a world of technology, it's a great use and progress forward, so makes it even better, despite I didn't get to share.
Yeah, signing a document, I might have danced a little bit in my kitchen when I did that. That was pretty cool, so.
It's
Proud
the
of you
small
guys.
things. And behind the scenes, we have a great technology department that is all working on these, because every little change and connection, there's a trickle-down effect. So they've done a really good job of supporting people and being calm, as the school year started, and just offering support, ongoing. So they're a great team that really support all these changes.
I have just one follow-up that's a little bit unrelated, but you talked about the significant increase in the annual registration. We still have 15% of students that aren't participating in annual registration. So how what do we do when that happens? Do we continue to follow up, or at what point? Because we could be missing, I mean, there's a lot of information that goes in there,
Yeah.
including some waivers.
Yeah, typically, there's more follow-up calls between the school or the enrollment, transportation and enrollment office. Hadfield did something new this year, and maybe one of you want to jump in on this, but they had a lot of move-in students, and they were able to have like all families like registered and have every student accounted for. Like, so if someone moved away, they knew exactly what school they were going to. So that was a huge celebration this year that Hadfield had all 100% of kids like accounted for. But in the case where if a family hasn't completed it, we do make additional attempts, and sometimes that's social workers getting involved. Sometimes it's just a call saying, hey, just update this, and it's done easily, but we just continue to reach out to families.
Quick question, at Hatfield, do they still do the home visits? Yeah, the teachers go to every home, so that, I'm sure that helps. a lot.
Okay, any other questions? All right.
Well, that was fun to bring technology to teaching and learning. It kind of touches on all aspects and all, so we talked about what committee to bring that to. So it really, it landed with teaching and learning, but that was really fun to do, so, thanks.
I'll just add to, I mean, I think it facilitates the right conversations between parents and their students too, because all of that information is in one place. So it's like, hey, what was that assignment? Or tell me about that, or why was that due yesterday, sort of thing, so. All right. Our next topic is continuous improvement. We'll be talking about strategic planning.
All right. Well, joining me is Faith Lincecum. She's the principal at Hillcrest. We are here to really share an update with you on all things like continuous improvement. We've talked about our key performance indicators, just really being about, a continuous improvement mindset. And so based on those conversations, I thought it would be important to just provide you guys with an update. So we're going to partner together and share some fun details with you. So in the past, we had what we called SAIL, and it stands for Student Advancement in Learning. And we had people who participated in learning around this approach. And really over time, as a new person coming in, over time I learned that SAIL meant SAIL process, SAIL plan, SAIL team, SAIL days. So that SAIL word was used in so many different ways. And so sometimes we had to have conversations about like, were you talking about the plan, or are you talking about the team, which part? But we use the SAIL acronym a lot throughout this system. Some of the key pieces that we learned from that continuous improvement process really is around 100-day plans, being strategic yet agile enough to our student needs right in front of us. And one of the other parts is about cycles of improvement. So at one point, in the strategic planning, principals were doing 3 100-day plans. And based off of, we continue to refine what we're doing and the templates we're using based off of the feedback. So as we move forward, we're going to continue to have cycles of improvement around 100 days, or what we really say is like first semester and second semester now. We're going to continue to take what we've learned around developing the capacity and using that distributed leadership approach with all of our teams, and then working to really create a shared understanding of what we're doing and why we're doing and what the goals are. Regardless if you call it SAIL, there's many different formats that you can use for continuous improvement when it comes to education. So some of you may have heard of Baldrige before. That's also in the health industry. They also have an education aspect. Studer Education does continuous improvement. Even the book, How Teachers Can Turn Data into Action, is a book about protocols and processes around continuous improvement. DPI offers the criteria or the continuous improvement rubric, and that in addition to all those, the graph in the middle that is on the bottom, that is the most colorful, is really just that plan, do, study, act process. So these are all different, they're all continuous improvement, but they all go about it a little bit differently. The one thing that is different, I would say, is that the continuous improvement rubric, in there, there's a readiness feature that has been helpful for our teams to really talk about what are we ready for. And some of those discussions led to some of our system enhancements with Infinite Campus and our data systems. Regardless of what process or system we're using, we really want it to be focused on continuous improvement and using that language around continuous improvement. So rather than the sale process, it's really our continuous improvement process. Rather than a sale plan, we're calling them strategic action plans. Rather than a sale team, it's really our school leadership team. In the summer, we have sale days where all of our school leadership teams come together, and we're really calling that our strategic planning days. So what we're doing is we tried to articulate a shift with a little bit more clarity around what we're doing and who's doing it and what we're using for the work. Today, what we're going to do is we're going to highlight a lot of the school strategic action plan pieces that schools have been working on since last June. This is like the giddy part that I'm like, woohoo. Okay, so as you know, we have our key performance indicators, and we just talked about some new ones. And so from there, we also use our district mission to really guide the work that we're doing. And so as part of our strategic planning, new this year, we were able to have department level strategic actions. So if it was curriculum, elementary curriculum, or student services, or special education, all the directors worked together to create their strategic actions, and then they worked with them with the principals and then shared them with principals so that we really had that alignment from the district to the school level of what were the priorities for the whole year. So here we have pictured just the outline that we used, and some of the language, the sentence structures that we're using is the we will, so that, as evidenced by. We wanted to ground ourselves in a common but simple sentence stem so that there was common, when you picked up a plan, it was easy to read and easy to understand. So new this year, we were able to have our district strategic actions that were shared with principals. And so that then leads to our school strategic action plans that people have worked on. And that's where Faith comes in, talking a little bit more about that.
Thanks, Jen. I served on the Leadership Steering Committee, which is a group of principals that meet regularly as kind of an advisory as to taking a look at these plans. This is what we're proposing for changes, and it's an opportunity to run it by a smaller group of principals before we take it out to the whole group of principals. And as we were looking at this, the sentence structure at the school level matches what we have at the district level. We will, so that, as measured by. Additionally, our school level strategic action plans include a section on PLCs, or professional learning communities, a section on teaching and learning, and then a section on student engagement. The as measured by will always end up going back to our KPIs, especially in teaching and learning and in the area of student engagement. The format for the plan itself was revised to be more simple and to also make it more clear how everything aligns with the SDW strategic action plans down to our school level. And then we also finally did move from 3 100-day cycles, which just didn't fit perfectly with the school year, to 2 semesters. So we know we're looking at analyzing data, making plans over the summer so we have a really strong launch, and we're measuring our progress that first semester and second semester as well. So this is a sample of what the plan looks like at Hillcrest. You can see the format matches very closely to what the SDAW plan looks like, but also all elementary plans are all aligned. Melissa Yao, Director of Elementary Ed, looked at what our goals were for the year and brought that back to principals, worked with instructional coaches to make sure that our alignment aligned both with the district strategic action plan and then across all of our buildings. Our elementary teaching and learning focus is all around literacy and math. With the curriculum adoption and the work around reading and literacy this year, we're all aligned in our we will implement with fidelity our benchmark advanced Adelante curriculums, as well as our math iReady, which we're in year 2 for, across all of our elementary schools with fidelity. And we are constantly defining what fidelity means so that all students have access to rigorous learning experiences as measured by the assessments that we're using now. So as measured by Ames Web Plus and iReady. We have the flexibility at the building as the evidence section in here, and we can also add additional action items in that strategic plan. But as you can see, the Hillcrest one is completely aligned with the district strategic action plan, and that would look the same across all of our elementary schools.
Throughout the year, we meet with the principals at the end of first semester, and really they bring this forward just to share out any progress that they've made as far as even the student achievement, but also just providing an update on those strategic actions and really validating those. Sometimes we have these big lofty goals, and if you don't do all the things, you may not see the improvement with students, but we really sit down and talk in small groups about what first semester looked like, and then at the end of the year, we have one-on-one conversations, but then each person uses this plan to really say if they're in progress, if something's complete, if they need to revise it, the goal or the strategic actions.
Another piece that you'll find in all of the strategic action plans across the district, from elementary through high school, is the professional learning communities, or PLC piece to that. We know that our PLCs are the driving force for learning, to have teachers come together and analyze student data on a regular basis and then plan instruction together around that ensures that same level of rigor across the district. I know in our building, that work starts with building that culture of collective responsibility, and that work is embedded in the strategic action plan, and that's also part of the process that we're engaging in with the Taking Action text. At the elementary level, as we are onboarding everybody onto the new curriculum, we are using our PLC time as collaboration meetings. This includes the grade level teachers, the instructional coaches, and the administrator, meeting once a week. And we're really focusing on that first question of PLCs, which is, what do we want students to know? And that calibration across all of those systems within our building, and knowing that that's happening across our district, is an important piece to ensuring a rigorous curriculum for all. So our teachers engage in those collaboration team meetings every week and professional development every week. And there is some math and literacy aspect to that, but that's built right into the plan.
One of the pieces with professional learning communities, there's so many acronyms in education. You'll hear it so many times when people come, they're like, well, the PLCs, the PLCs, the PLCs. In talking with the principals, as we talked about those PLCs, we found that there was a focus on how PLCs looked at each building years ago, but since then, we've kind of strayed a little bit, and all well-intended, but right now we find ourselves at a spot where we're wanting to like recalibrate and redefine what it looks like. And so right now, Faith may have the professional learning communities, they may be using a certain log or document, and that may be different than what West is using. it's okay, but we wanted to come back and as a principal team, what we're going to do is we have about 5 on our team that are going to look at just what are we doing currently, where can we tighten up, where do we want to tighten up, and then just really kind of guiding the teams moving forward for future professional learning community work. Here, I just wanted to show a year at a glance. Really, the process starts in spring and summer when we start to get some of our data. It's always different when we get it. Some of the data we get right away in June, and some we don't get back until August. But as principals are seeing the data come in, they're starting to analyze that. We do that at the district level. And then in summer, like I had mentioned previously, we have a strategic planning day where all the school leadership teams come together and really launch the next year of continuous improvement work. And then principals and teams work on that throughout the summer. And then really in fall and winter, they're really implementing their strategic actions and monitoring progress throughout the first semester and second semester. And then really we're looking for that data to come in at the end of spring and summer again, depending on which assessment and which time of year. So this is a simple snapshot of what a year at a glance would look like as far as the continuous improvement efforts. So some of our next steps, like I had shared, we have a small group of principals that want to work together and look at the professional learning communities. We are talking about what summer would look like for summer of 2025, which seems a little crazy already. Mr. Pat and I met with all the principals, gave them feedback on their strategic actions already this year. So that's been shared, and we'll continue to have one-on-one conversations with everyone. So these are just some of the next steps as we embark on our strategic planning journey.
Thank you. Anyone? Go ahead.
I love this. I love the strategic planning. A couple key things that I caught on, and much of this started to come through when we really started to roll out the curriculum. It started at the high school level where I got to sit in and watch high school teams, across district high school teams, talk about the same curriculum. Are we on the same sequence? Are we in the same week? Are we on the same learning structures, and sharing the notes? And so the collaboration that you're mentioning and really pushing through and leading, not only in schools, but within the district across schools, I think is remarkable. And I think that part will start to show strongly in our achievement, our scores, because the other piece we talk a lot about is what are the results? So here was your plan, it's well executed, it's well documented, we're speaking the same language, and then we measure it. So I'll be looking forward to see how that comes in and then how that rolls into next year, but this is outstanding. Thank you.
Strategic planning is hard, right? When you show the plan, everybody's like, well, yeah, that makes sense, and it's all connected. But all the, whether you did sticky note exercises or not, but all those exercises that lead up to, those decisions and what actually ends up on the chart and what doesn't, I know there's a ton of work that goes into that. And I am curious, just as far as, some of the targets and some of the way that you engage with the new information that you get. Is your expectation or your goal that parents also understand what some of those strategic objectives are, and that the language is similar? If there are certain things where you're saying, hey, as a school community, as a staff, these are the things that we're really working hard to move. How do you take that?
That's a good
forward?
question. I can speak to my site. I share the information with my PTO, and at the meeting, it provides a little more opportunity for dialogue. We'll also post it in our newsletter, just as kind of an FYI to everyone, but knowing, again, that it's at still a pretty high-level piece. But whenever we do have, say, a staff PD day, a professional development day, we also try to help parents see that that's tied directly into the teacher learning, which is tied to the curriculum that their children engage in every day. So I think we try to do it at a high level, but as far as engaging families in the process itself, we don't have a way to do that at this time. I know in the past, I've been on leadership teams in buildings where sometimes there is a parent there that's there for feedback and information. I think it would serve itself well, maybe at a building advisory level, to even pull in some feedback. But I think also pulling data from your families is another positive way to pull them into the process. We're using feedback, which is just another data point.
Thank you. Mrs. Koenig.
Question. Thank you. Yeah, this is fantastic. I've been part of this process for a long time, and there is a lot of work that goes in ahead of it with the Post-it notes, sticky notes, a lot of meetings to get to this point. So I appreciate how fantastic this all turns out. For our number one stakeholders, our students, how is it shared with them? How when it comes to the goal, strategic planning, how is this communicated to them? Like, what does it look like for the students with regard to the plan?
I think for them, it's just engagement in the curriculum. They know that our goal is for all of them to achieve their best, and I think what our teachers do to coach the student empowerment is probably the closest that they get around it. They have individual goals that might not be framed around the same language that's in our instructional goals in our leadership plan, our strategic action plan.
Mr. Pett, do you want to talk about kind of what was going on at West last year? I know you had parents kind of looking at your PTO meeting at the strategic actions, and it was, I think, either you or North had the student groups give feedback.
Yeah, so I would agree with Mrs. Linscomb, where the students are the beneficiary of that strategic action plan and everything that you're doing. So we did meet with groups of students to dive deeper into how they saw this implementation, right? So what we heard from them was purpose for their learning. It was very clear as to what they were doing in their classroom around that, and all that purpose, everything aligns with curriculum that aligns to our strategic action. So and ensuring that they had goals, so a social goal, a content goal, and a language goal, which, again, was very clear for what they were doing. So those were the things that we were looking for as evidence of our teachers engaging with strategic action planning, filtered down through to our students, and the results were super positive. Of course, we were seeing that in classrooms, but you don't get into every single classroom all the time, so that's where we were at.
Mr. Brooks.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here tonight. So I know you mentioned the importance of building that culture of shared responsibility amongst the staff. What does that look like in action when it's working well, and how do you foster that at a school level?
This year, that's the task of our leadership team. So we actually come together around that question every time we meet. In our launch, we included exactly what that meant. It means a firm belief by every adult in this building that all students can learn at high levels. And then it's also in all the conversations that we're having around students and data, whether it's that collaborative team meeting or our professional development, or we're going to have something called universal screening meetings come up, that our language is always based on what can the student do and what are their next steps. We always want to make sure we're using asset-based language, and we're looking at an instructional response. We're not, admiring some factors that might be out of our control. What's the instruction or what's the support that the student needs? And I think that comes from the commitment of the all of the teachers, but also our coaches are a really important part of that. And then in ensuring that everybody's at the table. We have all of the teachers at the table when we're having those important conversations. And then we are doing some leadership development also on our leadership team. So this last leadership meeting, we spent a little time talking about what is trust. And that was actually shared at our last admin meeting. What is trust? What are the pieces of trust? How does trust impact student learning? And so just infusing that in our leadership team meeting is, I really do think, helping to grow that culture of collective responsibility. And then we're using a tool to measure that as well. The Taking Action text from the Solution Tree has a good survey in there. We used to, with our SAIL process, we had a yearly performance culture index that we gave to all staff to say, like, how healthy are we as a culture? And so we'll be doing that with this new tool in the Taking Action text. So that will be the truth, is what everybody believes about our culture of responsibility. And then that's the task of our leadership team to follow up with that data. Yeah.
Anybody else? Thank you for
Thank
being the great
you.
example
Thank
for us
you.
tonight. It's good to have you. All right. We are working towards some of those key performance indicators, but as you'll recall, we just approved that packet last month. So that concludes our business for tonight. Are there any recommendations for future meetings? Not seeing any. All right, well, our next meeting, and just of note that there will be a change to the date of our next meeting. It will be Thursday, November 7th at 7 PM. So Thursday, 11/7 at 7 PM here in the boardroom. It'll be a lucky night. All right, have a good night, everybody.